Yeah, so basically in the last session, what we did was we looked at the interface of Tractor. We understood how the interface of Tractor is. We also understood how we can customize the layout, etc. So in today's session, what we're going to look at basically is we are going to look at all the effects to start off with. We're going to explore all the effects that are there in Tractor. So first, we're going to start by using the effects in group mode, and then we're also going to use them in single mode and sort of see how they play along with each other. So right now I have one effect already selected, which is the delay. So what I'm going to do here is I have the S8, so I'm going to use the effect select switch over here, which will let me cycle through all the effects basically and choose whichever effect I want to use. So let's start with the first one, which is a delay. And what we'll also do is we will use the same piece of audio that we have over here, just making it a little more comfortable for us to understand the effect rather than switching to different effects or different tracks and not sort of hearing what's going on. So we're going to have just this one little loop. Let's see what we have on this loop. Yeah. So we have a little breakbeat over here, which should be good enough for us to explore the effect. So to start off with, we have three parameters of control. We have the dry wet, which basically decides the amount of effect that happens. This is sort of like if you imagine your original sound to be the original sound, and you imagine the process sound which is going through the effect to be another layer of the sound. Basically, this is like a volume to blend between the original sound and the one which is coming through the effect. Okay. So for each effect, you will notice that these three parameters are going to change drastically for each effect. Okay. For this particular effect, for the delay, we can see the first one happens to be a filter. Okay, which we can see over here. Second one happens to be feedback. Third one happens to be rate. Same way, you will find three additional buttons, which will also change per effect. So for the filter, we have freeze and spread, which are basically two parameters, which we can activate by pressing the button. So let's basically start off with what the delay is. So the delay, as the name suggests, is an effect where any sound passed through it is delayed and then produced out. I'm sure as a producer, you've come across this effect plenty of times. It's used a lot of times in production as well. We use it in DJing as well. Also commonly referred to as the build-up effect because it sort of is used to create a build-up by repeating fragments of sound. So the first thing that you want to do in the delay is always make sure that you set the rate. Okay, the rate is in a bar beat format. So we're going from 132, 116, 1/8, 316, 1/4, and so on. So let's do something very simple. We will start with a delay of 4/4, which is one beat. So which means that any sound passing through the delay is going to get repeated after a gap of one beat. Now, what is very important is the BPM, because this is all going to work in tandem with the BPM. So I'm going to make sure my sync is on. It's going to work in relation to the master tempo that you see on the top, basically. So over here, you can see on the master tempo that we have it at 133. We have also synced this track to 133. So the delay is going to work at the pace of 133 BPM and gets divided by this rate. Okay. Now the next parameter, feedback, decides that repeat, how long is it going to repeat before it dies out? And the filter is going to filter out the delay sound by either letting the low frequencies pass through or only the high frequencies pass through. So what we'll do right now is we'll keep the feedback to 0. I have the rate at 4/4. Okay. I also have my delay switched on. Okay. Otherwise, it's going to be off. The effect is not going to run. And let me put my dry wet to 50% about. Okay. Which means half of the original sound, half of the delayed sound. So all I'm going to do now is just play one beat out of this track. Okay. So before I do that, let me enable my mixer over here, which is going to be useful for us to see on the screen. So I'm going to enable my EQ plus fader section because I would like to see also with this section actually more than the EQ and fader, because this is sort of going to tell me my effects routing on the screen. So it's very important to have this thing enabled, especially if you look at the screen. I can obviously switch off the effects routing from here, or I can also do it from the screen. So right now, this is FX unit number 1, FX unit number 2. We'll also enable 4 decks, and I'll show you how 3 and 4 will also come up over here. Okay, so I'm going to enable FX unit 1, which means any audio playing in deck A is going to go to FX unit 1. So now if I hit this Q button, in fact, without the effect first, I just have this one beat. Let's see what happens when the delay is enabled. There we go. We got a repeat of that sound once again. Okay. So we're getting a repeat after nearly 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, and repeat. Okay. Let's see how this track is going. The rhythm is like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now, if I do this at a speed of 4, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the repeat. Okay. So now I will go to a rate of 1, 4, which is 1 beat basically. Okay. So the repeat is going to come on 2. If I play this on 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I have feedback at 0, right? So let's drive up the feedback a little bit. I'm going to drive it up all the way to 70%. So now we're getting a bunch of repeats that are slowly fading out. So we can basically decide how we want our delay to function based on the rate and feedback. Those are the most important parameters, okay? So filter will decide that feedback that is coming out or whatever's coming out of this delay, how it's going to get filtered. I'm going to filter it quite a bit or more or less. Let's sort of low pass it. So that's basically what the filter is going to allow us to do. So the way to use a delay would basically be by first deciding the rate. Okay. In fact, I'm going to put the dry wet to 0, keep my filter and feedback at a value that I like. So I want to slowly bring in my delay by using the dry wet. So right now I've got it at 1.4, which is sort of going to give me like a fill or like a roll as I bring it in. Now the trick here with the delay is to never go more than 50%. Okay, you will notice if I go over 50%, you're losing your original sound and you're only getting the delayed sound, which is further getting filtered. Okay. So the ideal way always is to use the delay under 50%. Use it just to create these sort of micro fills. You know, you don't want to use the delay like too much to just sort of keep on giving a build up or whatever. You just want to use little bits of it to create these little micro fills. Okay. So let me use it now in context. Okay. Of what I'm about to do. So I'm going to remove the loop of the track and I will probably use my delay just before I can see that the track is going to build up in a little while. Okay. So just before that, I'm going to use a little bit of delay. Also drive the feedback quite a bit. Now I have a small section coming up. I can fill it in here with a delay. Let me do that here with a greater feedback. You see, it just filled up that little sound in that gap. Now what I always advise with effects is the use of effects have to be effortless. It should never seem like the effect is overtaking the track or it's something new in the track. You want to use the effect in a way where it's sort of fitting in with the track. Okay, let's maybe do another rate. Just a little fill in there. Okay, maybe reduce the filter. So I just like filled it in, went all the way up to 100%. Maybe even drive the feedback a lot as we're coming to the next breakdown. Have my feedback going on there. Just to fill in that quieter part of the track. Okay. Now let's also try using the freeze parameter. Okay. So what we can do with the freeze parameter is I can freeze a delay that's going on. So let's bring it up. Have my delay going on. So it's just freezing the output of the delay, which can be quite interesting to sort of create something cool. Then the next one is spread. It's a function where it spreads the delay across the stereo field. It's something that you'd be familiar from your production, this thing as well. So it has nothing to do with the knob. It completely, just as soon as you press the button, it sort of just spreads the delay into the stereo field, which would better be audible in a headphone. In fact, we can hear it here as well, that there's a slight spread. Okay. And the first button is reset. No matter what you've done with the effect, you can hit that, switch everything off, and just sort of reset the entire thing. Yeah. Awesome. That is your delay explained basically. Okay, lovely. Now let's move on to the next effect. So I'm going to use the effect selection button here, and I will go and choose the reverb. Okay. Now, as explained, reverb is an effect which basically emulates a space. So it emulates a room, basically a room in which, you know, the sound were to be reflecting off the walls, reflecting off the various surfaces, etc. So what a reverb is essentially going to do is it's going to create the size of the room, like from a really small room to a really big room. Then we have two filters. We have a high pass and a low pass dedicated filter. We also have a freeze and we have a reset, which we're already familiar with. Okay. So let's start off by enabling the reverb. So first I want to start by setting the size, probably a small size. I'm not going to touch the filters yet. So once again, like I recommended, the best way to get started by exploring any effect is to just play a small fragment of the song or a fragment of the beat through it. I already have channel 1 already selected, going through the effect. Effect is on. Let me keep it to about 50%. And I'm going to send in a little beat. Maybe we don't hear it that much. So let's drive the size up a bit. So we can obviously hear it. We're getting a sort of a reflection of the surfaces of the room. A lot of time people confuse this with the echo. You know, it's not to be confused with the echo, because echo is very rhythmic, or a delay is very rhythmic, has like rhythmic repetitions. Here, this is more of sound just sort of, you know, hitting the surfaces of a room and sort of just bouncing back. Now, this would commonly happen in your toilet as well. You know, when you're talking, you suddenly go into the toilet and you're talking to someone on the phone, your voice starts to sound strange to your own self because of the reflections of the small room, right? So that's essentially what a reverb is doing. So these two filters are like the high pass and the low pass filters. I can let more highs go through, more lows go through. So now I'm going to find a reverb that's a lot more thicker. Or I can completely cut down the high pass. Get a reverb that's more bassy, cut down this as well. Now I'm going to have a more darker reverb. Or I can have a more brighter reverb. Okay. So they've given you these two bands of filters so that you can really sort of, you know, tweak the whole effect in a very nice sort of a way. Okay, so what we'll do now is let me pick another track, probably to load on the other deck. Okay, and maybe we can do a little mix between the two tracks, and I can show you how we can really use reverb and delay both as mixing tools. So I'm going to make sure I have my sync on both the decks. So what I want to do is I want to set up my reverb in a certain way to a certain parameter. And I just want to use this on-off button to trigger the reverb. Okay, so it'll just give me a little fill like this. Now. Okay, just to use little fills like that. There we go. Okay. There, you see. Really subtle. Just these little bits. So now I'm going to bring in the next track. So as I bring it in, I'm going to use a little reverb just to fill it in. So I just used a little reverb to build a little atmosphere around it. Now what I can also do is I can completely make this track disappear into the reverb space. Okay, which was quite interesting because this time what I did was I was using a reverb on both the tracks. Okay, so both the tracks sort of disappeared into the oblivion and sort of came back in. Okay, but what we can do this time is we can use reverb only on one of the tracks. Okay, and I can make this track sort of disappear and while this track comes in. So let's try that. So I have my reverb on but drive it at 0. So essentially this is what's going to happen when I hit the on button. I'm going to get this little sweep of sound. So let's bring the other track in. So let's start turning up the reverb. So I can use it to create like really big impacts and those kind of effects basically with the reverb. Same technique can also be done with the delay as well. So if I go back to the delay and I set it up at a time of like, let's say 1/4 with a lot of feedback. Let's do something fun. Let's again go back to another portion of this track, start the track. So once again, the same kind of thing I want to do. I just want to turn it on and off. So I get that sort of, okay. Yes. Second track is coming in. I'm going to have a lot of feedback. Start building it up a bit from here. So what I did was used a lot of feedback on the delay. And as I built it up, as I bring the fader down, here's something very important for you to know. As you bring the fader down, you're still going to have the effect come out of the FX unit itself, okay? That's what makes it interesting here. So just to show you how that happened just on this channel, it's playing. Effect on, feedback building up. Fader down, but feedback still going on, okay? That's where you can achieve this, okay? Because if you put the fader down and the effect stopped, then you'd not be able to do that. Now at this point, another important thing for you to know is if you turn off the effect from here, right? You're not going to cut off the feedback. But if you turn the effect off from here, then you'll completely kill the feedback. Let me show you once again what I mean. So when I pull this down, feedback still going on, yes. But when I do this, it completely cuts the feedback. Why? Because when you're using this button, you're completely stopping the audio from going into the FX unit. When you're stopping it from here, when you're switching off the FX unit from here, what you're doing is you're just switching the FX unit off, but whatever's running within that is still going to run. The way it's structured in Traktor is the FX unit is a separate device sitting there. So the sound is gone into that. It's feedbacking from that. Unless you stop here, which says the channel is not supposed to go in anymore, then it cuts it out. So this can be useful also in a way where you can build a huge feedback and suddenly sort of choke that feedback, okay? So let me show you an example of that. So if I were to build up at a part like this, just before like a breakdown or whatever, okay? So let's start. So I have like a lot of feedback. I'm gonna get out of this loop, start building it up. Effect on. So we go, here we go. So that was something cool where the feedback was building up and it suddenly chopped off at the right part, right? So that can be very useful, to create these kind of build-ups that suddenly stop. We can probably do that again. So it can be interesting. We can even combine that with a little bit of freeze. So we could do things like that. Now, what is most important is even the way you move your hands on effects, right? Make sure it's very rhythmic. Make sure it's not like static. Like if there's a rhythm, get into the rhythm. So your hand is sort of moving in time with the rhythm, any parameters that you're changing, which gives this very organic sort of effect rather than sort of, doing things that are non-rhythmic, right? So we have basically explored reverb and delay. We have plenty more effects to go. So I want to stop here and ask you if you have any questions, any doubts so far.
So when you're using the delay on a track which you're taking out, right? So
Yeah.
the effect is going to be post fader, meaning you
Yes.
put the fader out,
Yes.
it's going to trail out.
Yes.
So will that, like if I'm not able to, sometimes it's going out of control, meaning it piles on itself and I wanted to cut off immediately. When I bring
Then
in
you would just use the dry wet knob
that's the
to
drive
take it
wet,
off. Yeah.
not the feedback. You can't.
You can even tame it down from the feedback as well. You're basically talking about a situation where
After the signals run through the delay,
Okay.
if I reduce the feedback, it's not going to help.
it's not gonna continue. No, no. I'll show you. Now if I basically run this all the way, have a lot of feedback on this. See, as soon as I shut the feedback, in fact, we can even do it this way. So we'll have a lot of feedback. There you go. So as soon as you kill the feedback, it's going to stop. So in fact, there are multiple ways to do it. One was cutting down the feedback. One more was cutting the audio to the FX unit itself by using this button. So what you'll find as we go is it's not that there's only one way to do these things. Like what you imagined was something very good. It's a practical thing that you're imagining. So I want like my delay building up and it's gone chaotic. I want to completely stop it, right? So you could also use the reset where it'll reset everything back, but the feedback may still continue a little bit. Okay. So you can do it in like multiple ways as you like. And you can basically set it up. Okay. Now let's go over to the next effect, which is flanger. So flanger is going to sort of create an effect where you will hear a sort of shadow of the track. Okay. To define it in the most simple way, you're going to hear this very robotic sort of sound on a flanger. Okay. Check it out. I would say this is the most abused DJ effect in history. I'm sure you've heard every DJ using this at some point. Okay. So what a flanger is essentially going to do is it's going to take a copy of your track and sort of play it over it and offset it by a little bit. Okay. So in fact, I can recreate a flanger effect by loading up the same track on both the decks. Okay. Let's go to maybe let's take another track that starts with a beat at the beginning. Okay, this one's a lot faster. So let's sync it up, not to this. Let's sync our master up to 160. And let me also load this on the other deck. Okay. So what I will do right now is have both of these tracks on loop. Okay, I have this on loop. I have this on loop as well, the same length. Okay, no effect enabled right now. Both of them are up. Let's play both of these together. Oops. Yes, this sync needs to be off for sure. Yeah, let's go. Let's play both these tracks together. Okay, so you can see they're slightly out of phase. I'm going to fix this phase a little bit. As I take it out of phase. Now let's enable the flanger. Right? So that was better explained with the example of mashing both the tracks on top of each other. So that's essentially what a flanger is doing. Now you also have a rate for the flanger, which decides, at what rate the flanger is going to work. Just a second. Why is this gone into this mode? Track collection, all tracks. Load. It's not coming out for some reason. Let me just restart this device. Okay. There we go. All good. So now let me enable the flanger. Flanger switched on. Effect is being sent to FX unit 1. Okay. So again, with the rate, it decides how quickly that movement of it sort of going out of sync with its own copy happens. So let me set it to something like 16 bars, okay? You're going to hear the flanger slowly sort of, take the track out of the current phase and sort of bring it back over a period of 16 bars. Still happening, and then it's eventually going to come back like down. Now you're finding a downward movement. Yeah. Without feedback, it's not going to be intense. With feedback, it's going to be sort of intense. We can go 100% wet. So we have just this. Okay. Then the next thing you can do is you can go in a free rate. Right now I'm in a synced rate, 16.8.4. Let's make it 1.8. You're going to find it very fast. Or I can go to a free rate, which is in milliseconds. You can see the sound is getting like really bubbly and sort of wonky. Yes. I'll go back to my synced rate. And I can use feedback up to add one more extra layer of feedback. You see now when I enable it, sort of a little more intense. I can of course spread it across the stereo field or not. And I can use reset to get everything back in action. Okay. So that's basically your flanger. Now the next effect we are going to look at is flanger pulse. So there are a bunch of effects in Traktor named pulse. Okay. You will in fact also see there is filter pulse, filter LFO. There is also phaser pulse. Pulse is nothing but acronym in Traktor used to tell you that there is a modulation signal which controls one of the parameters. Now you're obviously familiar with modulation signals when you use like a LFO or you use like an envelope, something that's controlling it. And you can appropriately see there is an amount as well, which can take it to the negative or the positive. Okay. Then we have feedback, then we have shape. Okay. So you see what is missing here. When I compare it to the original flanger, in the original flanger, I have spread, feedback and rate. So what is missing here? From compared to that, we do have feedback. Yeah. Yes.
There's no rate.
Yes. Spread is on a button. Okay. Yeah. We don't have rate. Yeah. So which means the rate is going to be controlled by this modulator towards the positive or towards the negative. And the shape is the shape of the modulator. Okay. So let's get on with it. Let's switch it on. Again, play it. Nothing is happening really. Any idea why? Because we haven't enabled any amount, okay? Because it's a unipolar signal here, which means it can go negative and positive, okay? So 0 in the center, minus and plus, exactly. Okay, so let me go towards the right. Okay, it's being modulated based on the shape of the modulator. If I change the shape of the modulator, you will see the way the flange happens changes drastically. Okay, now I can go negative. Again, I can change the shape. I can crank up the feedback. Get sort of all these really cool fills. I can invert the feedback, which is feedback negative. Right now, we have original sound and feedback behind. This is inverting that signal. Feedback on the front, original sound behind. So we can go quite crazy with this. In fact, I'll show you when we also approach a delay and when we use a delay in free time, right? We can do some things which are very similar to how these things work. Because a lot of effects that you see are all based on delays. Like a flanger is based on using like a short delay. In fact, how this is happening in the background is basically you are using a very short delay. Okay. I will show you when we approach one of the other delay effects, which lets me run the delay in free time. We're going to try and emulate a flanger with that. Okay. So let's go back to the effect selection. Let's go now to flanger flux. Okay. Now in flanger flux, you have a separate pitch knob that's appeared here. First knob seems to be deactivated. There's nothing else to use on the first knob if you see. We have feedback and we have pitch. Okay. So here I can manually control whether the output because of the flanger, because of the short delay causing the flanger, whether it sort of goes up in pitch or goes down in pitch. Okay. So let's start with 50%. Nothing happening at all really. Again, completely dependent on starting with the pitch. Lots of feedback, less feedback. Pitch it down. Invert the feedback. So here in the flux versus the pulse, the main difference is on the pulse, you have a movement that's going to automatically happen, okay, based on the amount that you've set and the shape that you've set. Here, there's no movement that's going to happen. You get to control the movement through the pitch parameter. Okay, that's the main difference between flanger pulse and flanger flux. Any doubts with the flanger?
No.
Awesome. Let's go to the next one, which is gator. You will normally find this effect. You'll of course find flanger also on the DJM 900 or most other digital mixers. You also find delay and reverb, obviously. You're also going to find this gator, but as the effect is going to be named transform on the Pioneer mixers. Okay, TRANS is short for it usually. So what this does is it chops your audio. Okay, 3 parameters: noise, shape, and rate. Okay, so it's very important in Traktor or any of these effects to understand the signal flow, which means which parameter is the one that's going to affect it first, right? Yeah. Most often it's the rate, and then there's like feedback, shape, whatever. So here also it starts with rate being the first parameter. I'm going to turn down noise and I'm going to keep the shape to the center to start with. I am going to keep the rate to maybe 1/16 to start with. Okay, so what's going to happen is every 16th note, it's going to do a rapid movement of the fader like this, even if I don't have this effect on. Okay, or if I do a slower movement. Okay, I'm sort of chopping up the beats, right? That's exactly what the gator is going to do. Check it out. Okay, the rate is so fast, it's chopping it up. Now the shape decides how that chop is going to be. It's a very sharp shape. It's creating some transients, in fact, to a very smooth shape, which is more like a side chain of sorts or whatever, where it's just giving a little pumping action to the sound. Okay, I'm just going to increase the volume a little. Okay. Notice this is very subtle. When I have the shape all the way to the right, is more like a very smooth shape. Okay, versus this side, which is a very sharp shape.
Yeah.
Super sharp, right? Yeah. Okay. Then the noise is self-explanatory. When I bring in the noise, whoops. Let me reset it, put it back to a nice shape like this, set the rate maybe to 1/8. Brings in a little noise as well. I can in fact stop the signal. I can use just the noise. Okay. So let's explore what we can do with just the noise, right? I can use this noise as a hi-hat. Okay. I can use this as a decay for the hi-hat using the shape. Okay. Which can be quite cool. And I can use this to sort of accent the off steps in between. I can use this to sort of punch it in. Okay. So I could actually do that over a track. Like if I just sort of wanted to, play something on the on the other channel. So let's do something fun. Let's add a delay on this other channel. Really smash up the feedback on this. Okay. Have this channel go both to the delay and the noise. Oops, let's enable it. There we go. Right? So this is one of my favorite things to use the gator for, where I can sort of, create these hi-hat patterns and sort of, create these little riffs of sound or whatever, which can be a lot of fun. Or you could also use, like, for example, let's say you just take a chord loop or something, right? You can even take that and really smash it up with like a 1-beat loop. So let's see if we can capture like a single beat here, which could be interesting. So let's get 1 beat of something. Cut down the noise, cut down the shape. Let me first see what is in there on the sound. Okay, so something like this also could be a lot of fun to sort of chop up. Okay, so I could combine it with the delay like I was doing earlier. Okay, maybe I load up another track on this side. So I could use a different track maybe. Okay, so let's put both these guys in sync now. Okay. So what I have is like a chopped up sound here. Not sure if they're going to be in key, but they're obviously not in key. It would sound a whole lot better if both of them were in key. But you could use it also sort of, to take a sample and sort of break it up and, do a lot of creative things with it. Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Now let's go back to the effects select. And the next effect is Beat Masher, which is really, really fun. So the best example that I can give you for this is, I'm pretty sure you've used Beat Repeat on Ableton. Yeah. Okay, which does like all kinds of cool things with the beat. It slices up a beat. So that's essentially what Beat Masher does as well. So I've just changed the track. I've taken something which is a little more rhythmic, which would be more easier to see what's going on. So I'll take an 8-beat loop, play this out. This is what I have here. Okay. Maybe let's go more forward on this beat so we have some kick in this thing as well. Okay, good enough. So on the Beat Masher, I have 3 parameters. I have gate, I have rotation, and I have length. Okay, think of this as a sampler, which will first sample the audio going into it. Then you can rotate, meaning which beat it starts with and plays back. Like let's say I grab 4 beats. I can choose if it's going to play as 1, 2, 3, 4 or 2, 3, 4, 1 or whatever. I can rotate it. And then I can also gate it. I can also sort of chop it. Okay. So to start off with, let me enable the effect. Let me choose like 4 beats. I'm going to have this also on 4. Okay. I'm going to enable the effect. Turn on the Beat Masher. I am supposed to be able to grab the audio. Let me do that because There we go. I've got the audio in. Let me show you that process again. Okay. So you want to first set it to the number of beats you want to grab. Okay. And then you want to have the effect on. You want to also have the effect on over here. Okay. And then you just go all the way 100% wet. 2, 3, 4. Okay, something is acting a bit glitchy. It's working. This is the protocol basically. You have the effect switched on the channel. So it's going to the effects unit. Set up the length, which is my 4 beats. Don't mess with rotation or don't mess with gate. Keep them both in the center. Start playing it. Switch on the button. Give it about a bar. 4. Crank it up all the way to the right. Stop the audio. It's grabbed inside. Okay. This is the first thing that you want to understand. Now the effect is grabbed inside. Now I can start playing with length. Okay, to chop it up. I can reverse it. Playing backwards, reversing it. Okay, I can rotate it. The start point of the loop. Okay, I can gate, which will basically give like a chop in between. You see what I'm able to do right now? I'm in a 1/16th grid. So everything I'm shuffling through it, I'm rotating through that loop in a 1/16th grid. I can go shorter as well. I can go 1/4. And I can use gate to sort of, see how I want to chop it and how I want to rearrange it, basically. Okay. Essentially, this is what this effect does. Okay, so if I were to be using it, first I wanted to show you this extreme case scenario where I have grabbed the entire audio. Okay, so let's say I wanted to use it in context with the track or whatever, right? I just wanted to create these few micro fills and things like that within the track. I could do that very easily. So I'll go back to the beginning of the track and get out of my loop. I will enable the effect, enable the dry wet. Let's start with tiny little 1/16ths, which I can pick up, rotate them a bit. Use a little reverse as well. Let me do that typical hip hop style, reversal. Okay, I could do bits like that. I could also switch on this warp mode where my rotations won't be in time. Grab a loop and show you that. Let's put the length to 4/4. Let's put the rotation gate in the center. So now I've effectively started sampling while the track is still going ahead. Put on my warp mode. And sort of go only to the right beats. Versus without, you can see. So now I could slowly come back in. Oops, my fader was down. Sorry about that. So essentially, that's what you can do with the Beat Masher. You can basically grab a loop and then you can mess around with it using the length, the rotation, and the gate. Okay, so the next effect is delay T3. So this is a delay, again, not much different from the other one in terms of its flavor, basically. So let's load the regular plain vanilla delay here. So we have filter, feedback and rate. We have reset, freeze and spread. Filter, feedback and rate. But we have the fr.r, which we also saw with the flanger, right? Which basically means free rate. So this will let you basically use the delay in free rate mode. Okay. Other than that, no other difference. It just has a slightly different flavor of sound. In fact, we can do an A/B between both of these delays. Let's set them both to 116. Okay. I will set this also to 116. Let's set the feedback at about 50%, feedback at 50%, filter in the center, filter in the center. Okay. Let's use the same source. So I will also set up the gain of this channel correctly. So it's at 0. I don't want anything to be louder or softer. So let's have both of them at 0. Okay. So I have both these delays enabled right now, and I can use this to A/B between them. Okay. So first one is the delay T3 on the left. Okay. The next one is the normal delay on the right. What do you find as the main difference? This is the one on the left. Yes, absolutely. Okay, it's a little bit stronger, the delay T3, a little more emphasized, I would say. Okay, perfectly got that right. So now, if I go to free mode, let's see what happens. Okay. It's talking about those little flanger-ish kind of activities happening, right? So you can get all these really like cool bits. It's sort of like using the dub echo also in a way, okay, on a free mode. So I can use like free delays to sort of create a build up. Let's do that right now. So let's just slowly crank up the feedback as we go. I'm not going to play with my dry wet too much because I don't want my original signal to get dipped. So I'm just going to slowly crank up feedback. Okay. I'm going to use the filter on this channel also to subtract a bit of that. I could smoothly change my rate as well. Okay. Or I could even sort of go to free mode. And play with my time to create these sort of right. So that's going to sort of repeat because I have so much of feedback. Okay. So that's the main difference between delay T3 and this other delay. Also, this has a much stronger freeze. Let's explore the freeze on both of them and you will see. Okay, same settings. I'm going to go 50% feedback, rate in the center, whatever it is, 316, rate in the center. Okay, again, the same source. So I will crank it up, freeze. It's on, like the freeze is infinitely looping. Okay, now I can play with the feedback. Now chances are it's going to slowly sort of start dying down. Okay, but no. It's still as strong as it was. But when I compare it to the freeze here on the other one, so if I go to the freeze on this one, the freeze is eventually dying out. It's going to take a little bit of time, but you'll see that it's dying out.
Yeah.
Yes? Completely gone. I mean, still audibly there, but not as strong as the feedback that we had on the delay T3. So this is where you basically make a choice on what effect is comfortable for you in Traktor. It's not really about, this sounds better, that sounds better. If you're looking for a more infinite sort of a freeze, then one would use the delay T3. But if you're looking for, a lighter version, then you would use the regular delay, right? So let's go back again. Now we have filter, LFO, filter, pulse, and filter. So better to start with the filter and then move on to the pulse and the LFO. Okay. So the regular filter, absolutely no qualms about it. Simple filter where you have a low pass, you have a high pass, you have resonance. Okay. So if I enable the filter right now, go 100% wet, I can allow the lows to pass through. In fact, let me go where a kick drum is. Okay, I could be like really low like this, very subby. Okay, open the low completely. Have no resonance. Resonance is basically a bump at the frequency that's being cut. Right next to that, you can bump up the next frequency so you can accentuate where you're cutting. Think of it like sort of if you're cutting something, you're drawing a border around it to accentuate, you know, what is being cut. So that's basically what it is. So if I crank up the resonance really high, you will hear the filter sort of screaming and singing. Same with the highs. But if I don't have resonance, it's going to be sort of very smooth. Yeah. So I have another option as well. I can make it a DJM mode where in the center, it does nothing. Left side becomes a low pass. Right side becomes a high pass. If you're used to like a DJM 900 filter on your mixer, typically, and you want to have that kind of a control, instead of having two knobs controlling high pass and low pass separately, you break it down to one knob that controls the low pass on the left and the high pass on the right. That's basically what it is. And you can also sort of add a little bump to the resonance. Sorry, that's not a bump. That's actually inverting the resonant signal. Inverting the filter basically. Right now, you have the subtle filtered sound that's being subtracted, sound that's audible, right? I can do the opposite. Sound that is subtracted audible, sound that was earlier filtered being subtracted. Like sort of just swapping the poles, okay? So filter is always best used at 100% dry wet. I mean, unless you want to do some light sort of filtering or whatever. Okay. So you can do all of these screaming sort of effects, right? Now, let's go to the other modes of the filter. Now, needless to explain, filter pulse, okay, has an amount knob again, has a softness knob to the filter, resonance, and a couple of other parameters. Okay, let's check that out. So, enable this, okay. Yeah, so the filter is now completely sort of muted until I start using the amount and decide if I want it happening on the low pass side or the high pass side. Okay. Crank up some resonance. You can see how soft it's going to be. So this is more of a moving sort of a filter. I can have a lesser dry wet. And I can add additional modulation. This is very subtle basically. I can add a little additional modulation to the filter if I want. So that's your filter pulse. Then the next one is filter LFO. So this is again a filter being controlled by an LFO. Okay. So an LFO is a low frequency oscillator. It's just a signal which is not audible, but that signal, the way it's moving, is going to modulate one of the parameters of the filter. So here it's essentially going to modulate the rate. So now if I enable it, over 4 bars, slowly you can hear the LFO modulating the filter. I can go free, which means the rate is in like milliseconds. I can bump up the resonance, play with the shape of the LFO. It's sort of around those spectrums itself. Yeah. Yeah, sharper ones are like triangle or saw. But here, I don't think they would be plain vanilla saw and triangle. They might have a little bit of a, inverted pulse, or, even like a ramp up or a ramp down or whatever. I think the manual explains them in a lot of greater detail. But you know what? End of the day, when you're using these effects, what I would also recommend is not that you want to use every effect. We want to select a bunch of effects that we want and have a purpose to why we're using it, right? So, yeah, sorry, you were saying something? All right, let's move on. Then we have two other versions. We have the filter 92 LFO. Then we also have the filter 92 pulse, and we have the filter 92. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'm going to go through filter 92 and make a comparison to the normal filter. So all this does is basically emulate the zone 92. Okay, that's why it's called the 92. So I'm going to crank these up to some kind of settings, maybe high pass at 66, resonance at 71, low pass at 65. Okay, let's do the same. 65, 71, and high pass at, what was high pass at? High pass at 67. Yeah, 67. Okay. Have both of these guys on. So let's start with filter 92. Normal filter. Slightly resonant. Let's maybe pull it back a bit. Let's go here. Normal filter, the resonance is a little bit more digital, more like harsh sounding, slightly more warmer. Okay. So it's really just the dips, the kind of curves that I use, the kind of dips that I use. That's essentially what is happening with the 92 version of the filters. Okay. So you can choose based on what you prefer, more convenient to you. Okay. Now here's the phaser. Phaser also sounds very much like a flanger, often very easily confused between the two effects. So I'm going to load up the flanger over here. Okay. So essentially, both of them are sort of creating a repeat. Okay. In the flanger, although I showed you that I duplicated a track and did this thing with it, that's not exactly accurate. I just wanted to show you initially because we had not yet come to phaser. So the repetitions in the flanger were created through a very short delay. Okay. But the repetitions in the phaser are created by exactly overlapping that audio and sort of shifting it out of phase. Now, while producing, you normally have like an issue that occurs, which is the kick and the bass are phasing, which means the waveforms of both of them are starting at the same point, which means they're sort of canceling each other out. Not at the same point exactly. If they start at the same point, they would increase in amplitude. But if it's a little off, the one wave will cancel the other wave, basically. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So phaser is based on that sort of a analogy. Okay. So essentially, the example that I showed you for the flanger is what actually happens in the phaser. In the flanger, also there's a repeat, but those repeats are coming basically from a delay, a very short delay. Okay. So you'll hear it now in the phaser when I enable it. The rate decides how much time it takes for it to shift out of phase and sort of come back into phase. So you'll find one point where the kick is audible. As it's shifting out of phase, it's cancelling the kick out. It's cancelling the low end out. Feedback decides the intensity of it. Okay. Like some of the phased signal coming back into phase again. Then we have the free mode, which will basically take it into free zones without the time factor being in sync. Up to sort of phase it only in one direction. Okay. Or phase it across up and down directions. Okay. That is the phaser. The next one is phaser pulse. As expected, we have a pulse knob. Okay. And we also have the number of poles, 8 poles basically. That's like increasing the intensity of the phaser. Phaser has like a bunch of, signals that are going in and out of phase. So by making it 8, you're going to have like more poles, more modulation on the phaser. So let's hear that. So until I drive the amount, nothing happens. A lot of feedback. Shape of the modulation. So we're in fact getting some new sounds. I'll enable 8 poles. It'll get a little more intense. We have almost like these bells sort of sounds that are happening. Yeah, mallets really, yes. I can spread it as well. So that's the phaser pulse. Then we have the phaser flux, which again has a pitch knob. So same way like the flanger, you control the pitch. So that's essentially the phaser flux. Right. So let's go now to some of these other effects which are quite cool. We have a bunch of them still to go. So let's go with reverse grain, which is very, very similar to sort of what the beat masher did, okay, earlier. So this can basically, again, like take a track and sort of granularize it and play those grains in reverse, okay. So we also have a forward button or a reverse button. It default will play in reverse, but I can like sort of play with those grains and speed. Like granular sampling is a concept where you take a very small piece of audio and really stretch the shit out of it. So let's say you take a sample that's 1 millisecond and stretch that into 5 seconds. Okay, it's like imagine you take an image on the web and you zoom into it to such an extent you get all the pixels, right? So I would give you that as the best analogy for this. So let's activate it. Start with the on off. We can already hear some grains. In fact, I like to keep it here. Slow down the speed, slow down the pitch. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the audio. I've got the audio into the buffer. I can increase its pitch. I can play with the grain size. Now we're getting bigger audible grains of audio versus, okay, let's bring it back in. We lost the grains, no problem. So let's bring it back in all the way on 100%. Anyway, the track is on loop, so I'll keep playing it. Okay. So here, I can play with the speed. Let's see if I can get it to how it was originally sounding. A bit tricky. No, it's still not the track. We're 100% wet. Yeah, so we can stop it right now. We can even stop the track. So we can get these sort of really, really cool like micro granular effects. I can hit this forward. It's playing the track forwards as it were. Let's kill it completely. Let's see if I can get another new segment into it. Let's first grab it. Switch it on, slowly bring it in. So there we go. We've turned this into some kind of an ambience. So you can even maybe create some ambient music with this, with reverse grains. All you probably need is to send it to a massive reverb. So I can basically send it it to a reverb. Let's catch that again. So let's take it in. Probably too much of reverb. So that's basically reverse grain, where we can take in a bit of audio and play with the granular parameters of it, which is the grain size, the speed, and the pitch. Okay. So the next one is turntable effects. I would say this is probably the most lame effect that's there in Traktor, but it can be used in a creative way, of course. So it's going to emulate a turntable slowing down with 3 parameters to it: how much time it takes to slow down, the stop speed, and the start speed. Okay. So let's basically set it up to maybe 50%. Yeah, it's like a vinyl break. So let's have both of this, certain places. Okay, let me have it to 100%, set these values correctly. Okay, so what I have is break speed, B speed, and restart speed and amount. Okay, so let me increase the break speed all the way and restart speed to 0. So it'll take a lot of time to slow down now. Oops, the other way around, sorry. Okay, so it's going to take a lot of time to slow down. The moment I hit it back, it's also going to take a lot of time now to start back. Okay, if I increase this, break instantly, start instantly. Now, again, break instantly, start instantly. So you got to find the sweet spot here. So I want it like this. Slow down. Also slowly start back up. Okay. I also have a rewind functionality, which will do this. Okay. This can actually be a little bit fun to create little build-ups. You know, when you're going through a track or whatever, you can just sort of have your next track come in, or, you know, use like a massive reverb or whatever. Possibilities are literally limitless. So that's your turntable effects. Next one is Iceverb. It's just another flavor of reverb. There are 3 flavors of reverb. There's the normal reverb, reverb T3, and Iceverb. Okay. So the Iceverb is more like a very cold sort of a reverb, you know, which is rich in high frequencies. It only has 3 parameters. I mean, like all other effects, of course. It has size, color, and icing. Okay. So let's just see how that sounds, and we'll compare it with the regular reverb. Maybe it's time to load another track. We've been on the same track for a while. So let's go ahead on this track, maybe to this part. So let me enable the reverb. The icing is basically the amount of feedback. Okay. Color is like a tone. Size is size. So I can sort of get this sort of very gentle reverb that's more atmospheric, not very hard, not very like sort of prominent. But on the other side, I have the reverb T3. So let's set both these guys at similar values. Okay. I am going to, here I have a filter, but there I have color. Yeah. So essentially I'm just going to set the filter in the center. So, or I'm going to set it up this way. I'm going to set the size to the center. Let me just check that I've got everything right on this one. I have got my, freeze is on, sorry. Okay. Now this is what I have here, but the reverb is unfiltered literally because I have completely shut off the high pass, opened the low pass. Otherwise this is what it would be like. Okay, now we'll compare it with the reverb with the iSwerve, sort of very gentle. Even if I crank up the size compared to this, this is a studio quality reverb. It's an emulation of a studio reverb, basically, or sort of more like if I say the iSwerve is sort of maybe emulating a very, gentle kind of a digital reverb.
Yeah.
To me, the Reverb T3 sounds a little bit like a plate reverb or something that's a little more intense, you know? So then you just got to choose between what flavor of reverb you like better, whether you want to use the iSwerve or you want to use the T3. Okay.
What does this icing do? Is it the time?
Icing is basically the feedback.
Okay.
Let's go back here. Let me show you. But it's also doing something very cool, where on the left side, it's kind of making it like very granular and reversing the reverb as well. Because it's sort of got something very different going on here. You can almost hear the phase going reverse, you know. Color is a very extreme filter. Size is size. So it looks like it's created using a chain of delays, basically. Something quite cool there. And in fact, with Reverb T3, you can play with the size as well while the reverb is playing and get sort of like a very pitch down kind of an effect. Let me show you. Maybe I can have some high pass, so it's not that intense. So that's basically the difference between the Reverb T3 and the iSwerve. Okay. Let's now look at another effect. So let's look at the ring modulator. So what a ring modulator does essentially is takes in like two sources of sound, a modulator and a carrier, and sort of intermingles their frequencies to create sort of a very a sound that is either the combination of both the frequencies or the difference between the two frequencies. Okay, that's essentially what a ring modulator does. Sort of also like a frequency shifter in Ableton. Okay, so you'll see that it creates these very cool like frequency overtones on the existing track. So let me have it at 100%. So I'll start with the pitch first, which is the pitch of the modulating sound. Okay, it's a waveform which is modulating in sync with the audio. Raw makes it a little more aggressive, okay, or a little gentle. AM and FM are two ways of modulating: amplitude modulation and frequency modulation. Right now, the modulation is happening on the volume, modulation on the frequency. So you could take even the most decent of tracks and sort of, give them like a rough edge or like really like rough it up. That's basically what the ring modulator can do. Okay, moving on to the next effect is digital lo-fi. So this basically will do a bit reduction and a sample reduction. Now, when you reduce the amount of bits, it's like reducing the quality of the audio. When you reduce the amount of samples, I told you about sample rate in the original class when we were talking about the sound card samples. It's how many times a sample is sampled for accuracy. Okay, so right now, if I take the digital lo-fi and start messing with it, right now, I'm not changed anything. Okay, first I'm going to start by reducing the bit rate. Right now, there's a 16-bit audio file. As I reduce it, I'm going to lose resolution. Okay, so I have only some parts of the audio still comprehensible to me, right? Rest of it has just gone into noise. I'll start reducing the sample rate. Okay, I have to start with this knob, which is the sample rate. This is the amount of sample rate. So when I start reducing the sample rate, you'll see that eventually it becomes like a Nintendo video game. Okay, the sounds that you hear on a video game or whatever, with bitrate, everything reduced completely. This is basically a filter in the center to control after I reduce the sample and the bitrate. I can spread it as well if I want to. So I can give this crush sort of an effect. This is exactly what is labeled as crush on the DJM mixer. Okay, that's exactly what digital lo-fi is. We'll go to Mulholland Drive, which is like a pedal. It's like a drive pedal, okay, which drives and distorts the sound. So start. You can start driving it until it starts to sound like a guitar. Yeah, fuzz or whatever, sure. I can really like mess up the sound. Drive on the high frequency, drive on the low frequency, feedback. Yeah. I can stop it and now I have feedback in the... Now if you want, you could take something like a gator and start processing this sound. Now when we go into like combined effects mode, you know, where we group effects, we can throw a gator, a reverb and a delay and start using these as like, you know, bass sounds for us to start with. In fact, you can do something like this if you are out of an intro in a track, right? On your headphone, just queue up a track, drive it on Mulholland Drive, get that feedback tone and start using that as an intro to sort of begin your set with. Yeah, exactly. DJ tools, you know, you can have your own sort of tools or whatever. The next one is transpose stretch, which is again very interesting. Sort of works like the beat masher, where I can grab a piece of audio and again stretch it and transpose it. There's grain size, there's key, and there is amount of stretch. So let's basically start with this. Let's grab the audio first into it. So first, it all starts with the key parameter here to first change the tone or the key of the track. Okay. We can enable this to go in 2x semitones. Okay. So it's giving you a slight difference in the pitch. Okay. Once you have it at the key you want, then you can play with the grains. We gotta enable this first. Okay. And then you can really stretch it up, which is like slowing down the tempo of it. So one of my favorite things to do is to combine this with a filter, something as simple as a filter. Like let's use the filter LFO. So I have this like drone sort of thing going on, you know, which is like super nice to sort of make it even rhythmic or... So yeah, it's like literally limitless. You can do a lot of stuff with it. Again, it's buffer based. I've stopped the original audio. It's all in the buffer because effects like this have to use a buffer. Okay, at this point, it's also important to understand what effects are what kind of this thing based. Like, for example, if I say a delay is a time-based effect, it's going to mess with the rhythm of your track. Okay, a reverb is an acoustic or a psychoacoustic based effect. It emulates a space. Okay, these are like buffer-based effects. Even we saw with Beat Masher and Transpose Stretch, it's grabbing a piece of audio and then that audio is being manipulated in crazy ways. Okay, because something like this would probably not work best if it was not buffer based, because it has to grab that into the buffer and sort of then like extrapolate it or play with it, right? Yeah. So the next one is Beat Slicer. Works very similar to the Beat Masher, okay? But this one sort of slices it. You again get rhythmic repetitions. So what is very important, rather than understanding too much of the behind the scenes of the effect, is to understand what is happening to the audio so you know where in context to use it, right? So let's start with this. Okay, so let's shut off the buzz. Okay, I've got that into the buffer. So once again, what I did was just started with everything turned down, on button, all the way to the right. Got the audio in the buffer. So it starts with patterns. Now, how do you want to shuffle this audio? Pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3. It's looping, basically it's shortening the loops. Okay? Because it's linked to style. I'm in style 1. Consider these like banks. Okay? Now style 2, different kind of a rotation. Yeah, you see what's happening to the rhythms. Style number 3. Style 4. Buzz is going to just sort of make it busy and add some fake fills. Just sort of like maybe micro looping it. I can extend it to 2 bars if I had a longer loop. You see now, I'm playing with a 2-bar loop. I can use this to sort of gate. So that's basically your beat slicer. I'm going to show you a few practical uses of all of these effects once we finish, where we start combining them and using them in context. Right now, although it's interesting, it might also be a little dull. Okay, we're just doing effects on the same track. So the next one is formant filter. Formants are basically the vowel sounds, A, E, I, O, U. They all actually have certain resonant frequencies, the vowels in a language. Okay, so the formant filter, any sound you put through it, it's going to sort of accentuate those vowels, and we're going to get this very talk box or a vocoder sort of a sound coming out. So let's see this. Let's play all the way. A, I, O, U, like it's sort of going in that zone. Yeah, the size of the bands. You have more wider bands, the less clear it's going to be. More narrow band. Sharpness. Sort of resonance. So that's basically your formant filter. Next one is peak filter. It just has a more sidechain sort of an effect with the pump and the edge for resonance and frequency. Edge is your resonance. Pump will basically sidechain it to the same input of the original sound. So you see the filter sort of like breathing versus it being like just dry. And here you can invert this. You can basically make this band pass or whatever it is into a notch. Instead, the frequency that you're cutting right now can be the frequency that you're killing with the kill switch. So it's sort of like killing that frequency. So you can make it like a notch and sort of select an area of the sound that you want to kill. Or you can use it like a normal filter. That is basically your peak filter. The next effect is tape delay, which is actually one of my favorite delays. This emulates the old tape machines. So back in the day, when you had to sort of use a delay before you had digital technology, the only way that you could do it was by using some sort of device which can copy the sound and then play it back after a delay, after a certain time. So they would use tape loops. So you would have a recording head and a playback head. Depending on the distance between the two heads, the delay time would increase or decrease. Okay, imagine you had two heads and a loop of tape was running. The loop of tape came here to the recording head. It recorded the original sound, but the play head was like a meter away, let's say. So the tape is going to take some time, come to that place, and then the playhead will play it back. Okay. At the same time, you also have a way that you can control the speed of the tape itself. Okay, so that the delays will play faster or slower. Either you could control the speed of the tape or move the heads far away from each other, whichever was more practical. Okay, so that's basically what a tape delay is trying to emulate. So you'll find the parameter of speed, which is the speed of the tape. You'll find feedback and filter, which are the common things. Okay, so now if I start to activate it, you can hear the delay happening. As I play with the speed, the delay time will change. Okay. But you see there's a certain movement between how the sound is changing. Okay, I'll increase the feedback. Now when I change the speed suddenly from 100 all the way to 0, you're slowly hearing the tape deaccelerate. Okay. I can get rid of that by pressing this acceleration button. Changing it like very quick when I jump values, or I can have it off. Okay. So one of my favorite things to do in the tape delay is to really crank up the feedback, freeze the effect, and then turn off the effect. I can just keep playing with the freeze. Okay. Let me show you. So to do that, I would start with playing the track, starting it a bit. Okay, let me have some filter as well. Okay, now I'm gonna freeze and then switch the on button off. Okay, because if I freeze, it's gonna go just into the wet sound. But the moment I put the on button off, the original audio will come back. Now I can play just with the feedback. Okay. So practically speaking, I could use it this way. Start off. Right? I could do that again. Just sort of create these subtle textures on top of the track if I want to. So the tape delay is very useful for that because your feedback is going to be more stronger than the delay T3. In delay T3, when I was changing the time, I wasn't getting this sort of a mode where it was slowly blending from time 1 to time 2. Right? So that would be the main reason on choosing between the normal delay, which is sort of quite thin and simple, delay T3, which has a little bit of an emphasized feedback, or the tape delay, where I don't have a time mode. So the disadvantage in the tape delay is your delays are never going to be on time. They're always going to be off time. But that's basically a feature of this, because when you're in tape, it's very difficult to get, sort of those accurate times. Yeah, so that is the tape delay. Now let's move on to the ramp delay, which also is an effect that I really, really like a lot. Okay, because what this can do is it can go from one value of the delay to another value of the delay in the duration that you set. Okay. So if I want to jump from value of 132 all the way to 44 with a period of 16 bars, it's slowly going to change the delay time from that original time to the rate that I changed it to. Okay, so let's see that practically. In fact, let me again load a different track. Maybe we can go for this one. Okay, that seems to be a stem. Let's go for something else. Also a stem. I mean, doesn't matter. It'll still play the same just for our visual, this thing to keep things easier. Okay, so let's go with this. Start it up. Now duration is set to 16 bars. I'm on 4/4, which is why the delays are falling on the beat, even beat. So I'm going to swap this all the way to the right. Over the next 16 bars, you're going to hear the delay time just constantly changing. Okay, but while that is happening, what if I change the duration? It's going to mess with the buffer. I'll set it to 1 bar just to keep things simple, okay? So if I go from 116 to another time, it'll take 4 beats to change it. So if I go from here to another value, okay? If I enable this feedback plus button, it'll add more feedback. Okay? I can go on a very short duration. I can basically create these little micro fills. And even though it's off, the feedback is still active, which I'm messing with. Create these little glitches. It's more of a very glitchy delay, I would say. Okay, so you can use this to basically do those kind of things. How I like to use it is I like to use it in this short 1/4 mode. Okay, so I like to basically use it literally like this. Keep the dry wet down. Just to create these sort of like and switch it off. Like maybe even like this. Best to turn the feedback plus off when you want it to die. Again, like here, let's say I switch it on. Just shuffle it a few times and the buffer will basically get empty. Okay, that's basically your ramp delay. The next effect is auto bouncer. This again sort of, is very similar to the beat masher, sorry, not the beat masher, the beat slicer, where we take a beat. Again, we have a bunch of patterns, but there it's going to shuffle between the rhythm of the beat, right? We had style and we had pattern. Yeah. Here we have pattern and we have bend and transpose. So which means it's going to sort of affect the pitch in a drastic way. Okay, so let's check this out. We can transpose, we can bend it, and it's going to give you all these sort of crazy repeats. But this is going through live. See, when I stopped the track, there was nothing in the buffer. Okay, it completely stopped. So if I'm playing this, it's happening live on the beat. It will sort of give you these really funky sort of bends and transpositions. And you can hit this Alt button to go into an alternate bank of patterns. This can double up the bend range. I mean, could be fun to just do a bunch of, cool things with this. So that's basically your auto bouncer, where you have a bunch of effects that you can extensively use to do a lot of variation to your sound. So this is basically auto bouncer, and then we have another bouncer. So this will do it manually. In that there was some kind of modulation that was controlling it. Here, you control the filter, the speed, the transpose. So you can go into all these like sort of crazy zones. Okay, that's the auto bouncer. The bouncer. And then we have a bunch of effects which are all marked with an M if you see over here on the screen as well. These are macro effects, okay? So I'm going to show you one of them. Now your assignment would be to go back and try to figure out what effects have been combined into it. Unfortunately, you cannot create these macros. They're already created by native instruments. Let's take this laser slicer. You see macro only has one knob. As like the other effects had 3 parameters, we have only one knob. I've got the laser slicer. Let's try and decipher what's going on with this, okay? Switched it on. There's some kind of a delay, definitely. High pass filter, okay? Yeah, because it was easy to tell when I switched it off. There's feedback coming in, right? So as I turn it to the right, one of the slicers, right? It's definitely the beat slicer. Center, nothing is happening. Left side, slicing plus some kind of delay. Okay, it's a lot. Exactly. You can see that. On the right is going to be something different. Some kind of phaser pulses plus, you know, beat masher plus, because I can hear the phaser in this part. It could even be the delay, creating that sort of a micro delay, suddenly jumping values. So this is how all your macro effects work. Polar wind, some kind of reverse filtering plus reverb maybe. There's a short reverb that's kind of like cutting off. So these effects are fun as well. You can definitely, you know, look at exploring them and sort of decipher on your own, you know, what's going on there, right? So before I move into the next segment, what I want to do now is I want to group the effects. Okay, one side I want to use a group effects. Another side I want to use a single effects. Okay, so let me bring up a couple of tracks. So maybe this one, or maybe this one. Get a couple of tracks in here. Let me actually pick 2 tracks that are in key. So they're going to be better for the mix. Okay, so I've got a couple of tracks in here, which are both in key. So normally I like to use Reverb T3 as a way to sort of, you know, create a little fill where there's an empty section in the track, or before bringing in the next track. Let's say I have this mix going on. Okay, I have the other track on this side. Okay, so now if I were to start bringing this other track in, brought it up. Okay, but if I wanted to just sort of create a little anticipation before bringing it up, right? I would use a little bit of this reverb, set up the size like quite high, and sort of just go like this. Okay, to sort of introduce that track, you know, that could be something useful in sort of doing that. I could also use maybe the delay T3 and achieve something similar. So I'll have a lot of feedback. And this gets introduced. Dry wet is very important, how much of it you use, because that seemed a little overpowering. Let's do this again. Okay, so I could sort of just bring that in with ease. Now, if I want to use the combination of effects, I would choose them very wisely. I would say, okay, I definitely want a delay here. And let's say the delay is going to go through a lo-fi. And then the lo-fi is going to go through a beat slicer. Okay, I can always change the direction of the effects as well. It all depends on which effect you switch on first. That's what is going to take a precedence in which one is going to play first. So I have this here. So let's say this time I start with the delay. Okay, So here when you have group effects, your first button is going to be free. It's not going to be enabled to anything. There's no first button. There's only these three buttons. Okay. So I enable the delay. You can hear the delay happening. Send the delay through a lo-fi. Send that through a slicer. Okay, but the feedback of the delay is dominating quite a bit. Let me switch everything off. Let's start with the slicer first this time. Take that through the lo-fi. Take that into a delay. Oops, sorry, because the slicer has completely dominated everything. Because the slicer has gone into the sampler mode, so it's not taking over. So let's start with the lo-fi this time first. So I've got a fully lo-fi sound going into the slicer. Okay. Because you saw previously when I started with the slicer and then went to lo-fi, you see the lo-fi is not taking over the slicer. Okay. But this time, if I start with the lo-fi first, you see that, right? How the slicer is taking over the lo-fi. So it's very important in which order you switch them on. Whether you want the lo-fi sound going into the delay or you want the delayed sound going into the lo-fi. See, it's a difference. Lo-fi going into delay, okay, versus delay going into lo-fi. Okay, so you can always sort of choose how you want to sort of use them or what you want to do with them. Okay, we'll take another extreme example. Okay, we will take a loop from this track, from whatever this other track is, 4 beats in a beatless section. Okay, excellent. So I have this loop. So what I want to do, or rather what I intend to do, is use the Beat Masher 2, to basically grab this loop from this track and overlay it on the other track, while I can free up this deck and play another totally different track there. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to do some sampling. So I am going to set my gate here, my rotation here, my length to 4/4, Beat Masher down, and enable it on channel 2. Keep the on button as well. Play. Oops, yeah, let me switch it on again. I always have to do it once I start playing the track. Yeah. Okay. Let's cut the EQ of this. Literally sampling, you know, that track. Right? Now I could load up another track on this deck if I wanted to. Nothing will stop me from that. I could play this track and, you know, reduce the dry wet. So I did something like, you know, quite out of the box, where we took a track, we sampled it, and we sort of got it over another track. You could also do this, let's say you had like a ambient track of some sort on this side, okay? Let's say the track was some 190 BPM or whatever. You just grab a loop from that, and then that loop which is not in time, because of the beat masher, will still sit in time. Okay, we can in fact try that. Let me take something from this 84 BPM track. Let me not sync it, okay? So I have a bit over here, which is, right, whatever. It's a small segment. Let me also take a track in the similar key as this. Or in fact, let me change the key of this using the Traktor's key shift feature. So I've taken it to 3M, and I have this track which is 162. Okay, it's a stem, but it's fine. So I've got this, pushed forward by 5 tones or whatever. So it's gone from 8M, 9, 10, 11, 12, 7 plus 7, which has gone to 3M right now. So I don't have this in sync, notice, okay? So I have this, which is on a loop, okay? Let that be. So I will do the same technique with the beat masher, setting my rotation in the center, length to 4/4, but no sync this time. Okay, got it in. I've got it on loop. And as you can hear, got it right. This is one of my favorite tricks in the book, where you're using something from a different time source altogether, but it's sitting perfectly in rhythm with this other beat, as you can see, right? So this is a very, very cool way that you can use something that's completely out of time and, bring it in context and in time when you follow harmonics along with some of these facilities over here, right? So that brings us to the end of the effects. Before I wrap up and show you some of the other stuff, obviously want to pause and ask you if you have any questions.
I think this is a high-level FX question.
Yeah.
So my question is basically, when you're using effects like reverb, phaser, flanger, from a production standpoint, you know that you don't apply it on the bass, let's say.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't.
Yes.
Would you always do a low cut when you're, let's say, throwing a reverb, or in bigger, how does that?
That's a very good question. Ideally, I always like to use a little bit of a filter when I'm using delays, especially, if they're coming on the kicks, whatever, or use the filter within the delay itself. Okay. So it depends really on this thing. But if you are using it at the peak part of a track, obviously you don't want the kicks to rumble around. So I would definitely recommend, using a little bit of filter or some kind of a low cut or whatever when you're using those kind of effects for sure. But it's not a compulsion. In my personal opinion, I basically avoid using effects as much as possible. I use them very little. I use them only when absolutely necessary. I stick to the basics. I stick to the reverb and the delays, which are just to fill in spaces. I would normally use some of these extreme effects. Really, if I'm, if I'm really in the zone, in the moment, and people are sort of responding to it, you want to create something very drastic, or you're suddenly going to switch your sound from, some BPM to another BPM, where a transpose stretch could come in handy, right? Like, let's say, for example, we have 192, and let's me load this 91 BPM track here. So let's say here, I want to do like a drastic switch between these two genres. So let me load a transpose stretch on this side. Let me not go into group. Let me go into single. Okay. And on this side, I am going to have, let's say, a reverb. Let's have the reverb T3. So I'm going to have this reverb set up in a way that it's going to give me a huge tail, basically. That's what I want out of this reverb. But I'm going to use transpose stretch to sort of, slow this track down. slowly blend into the other track. So I could do cool stuff like that. You know, that's when I would use these extreme effects. Otherwise, you know, I would not really go into any of these like super extreme effects. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Awesome. See, this thing is still going on, the transpose stretch, by the way, which I need to turn